return again to our diagram of the primary trend. We've shown it here as an uninterrupted rise and fall, but in reality the primary trend is interrupted by intermediate term reactions. Intermediate trends are now identified on the screen by the thick blue line. Intermediate trends last from as little as 6 weeks to as much as 9 months. As you can appreciate, the categorization of trends is sometimes a rough and ready approximation, since smaller primary trends such as the 8-month bear market in US stocks in 1966 can last about the same time as an unusually long intermediate trend, though this is quite a rare occurrence. In a bull market, intermediate rallies last longer and have greater magnitude than declines. In bear markets, the opposite is true. Technical folklore has it that there are 3 intermediate cycles in a bull market, as shown here. Now I'll overlay the primary trend diagram we looked at earlier, so you can see how the two trends interact. It's a generally accepted principle that a counter-cyclical move generally retraces between 1 and 2/3 of the previous move. That means in a bull market, the correction will normally retrace anywhere from 1 to 2/3 of the previous advance, and vice versa. Finally, I'll bring in the short-term trends, as represented by the dashed red lines. Short-term trends last about 2 to 4 weeks, and occasionally as long as 6 weeks. They tend to be much more influenced by random news events than the longer intermediate and primary trends, and are therefore much more difficult to identify. Generally speaking, in a relative sense, the longer the trend, the easier it is to identify. It should be apparent by now that prices at any one time are influenced by a confluence of trends. In this diagram, we're just considering 3, short, intermediate, and primary. Clearly, it's important for all market participants, with the possible exception of intraday traders, to at least attempt the exercise of trying to determine the prevailing stage of the cycle. Investors who typically have a long-term horizon of a year or more need to know whether the primary trend has just begun, is at the middle, or at a very mature phase. It's obviously much better to be buying on the first or second short-term rally in the first intermediate upwave than at the top of the last intermediate and short-term rallies. These are indicated by the red arrow. Short-term traders, on the other hand, need to make sure that they're positioned in the direction of the main trend. This is because surprises usually occur in the direction of the main or primary trend. Rallies go further in bull markets. Declines can and will be precipitous in bear markets. This diagram is what I call the market cycle model, and should form the heart of all your strategic analysis and thinking. It's far from perfect, but it will give you a framework on which to base your other analysis.